Hello everyone, it's a pleasure to see you back on my channel. Today, I will continue to share with you the turbulent yet love-filled story of the single mother Lythieuca and the brave policeman Hung. As you may remember, in the previous episode, while on duty, Hung was suddenly ambushed and fiercely attacked by a group of smugglers. The brutal fight not only left him severely injured, but also cast a shadow of fear and anxiety over the entire small village. His bloodied eyes and the wound on his forehead left many speechless, unable to believe that someone as strong as Hung could fall into such a life-threatening situation. Meanwhile, back in the village, Hoai remained unaware of what had happened. She was still absorbed in the fields, caring for her child, and dealing with daily worries. Yet deep inside, an uneasy feeling kept lingering, making her heart beat faster whenever she thought of Hung. More than anyone else, she understood the dangers of his work, and how just a single moment of carelessness could take everything away. So what will become of Hung's fate? Will he survive this deadly ordeal and return to the one he loves? And Hoai, amidst overwhelming hardships and relentless anxiety, how will she face the devastating news when it finally reaches her? All of this will gradually unfold in today's episode. Please stay tuned, accompany us, and don't forget to leave your blessings and kind comments for Hoai and Hung, so they can find the strength and courage to overcome life's storms. The sound of rain pattered on the old tiled roof, blending with the creaking of wind rushing through the bamboo grove. Droplets trickled from the eaves, splashing onto the ground below, forming small uneven puddles. The chill of the first seasonal rain seeped deep into the kitchen, making the dampness feel heavier than ever. In the corner, Hoai huddled by the fire. The flickering flames cast a dim glow on her pale, weary face, hollowed by countless sleepless nights. Her eyes were distant, fixed on the fire, yet her thoughts drifted far away, to where Hung was, the man whose news she longed for. Ever since he had left on duty, her heart had never been at ease. Mother Ha walked in, carrying a steaming bowl of herbal medicine. The faint bitterness of the brew mixed with the smoky scent of the firewood, creating that earthy, familiar smell of the countryside. She set the bowl down on a bamboo tray, her gaze heavy with concern. "Drink this, my child, it will help you recover. These days you've been dizzy, restless all night, hardly eating at all. Letting it go on like this won't do." Hoai nodded gently, lifted the bowl, and pressed her lips together. The sharp bitterness rushed down her throat, forcing her to wince as she swallowed. When she finally put the bowl down, she let out a quiet breath, relieved, yet still weary. To chase away the aftertaste, she peeled a few boiled eggs, carefully removing the thin shells and placing them neatly into an old ceramic bowl. Mother and daughter sat together, eating slowly, listening to the rain drumming on the roof and the occasional crackle of the firewood. That warmth between them softened the cold that lingered outside. Over the meal, their talk turned again to crops and livelihood. Mother Ha spoke slowly, her tone heavy with thought and sighs. "With this fickle weather, if the rain eases later, we should pick some vegetables to sell. If we wait too long, they'll get tough and won't fetch a price. We'll also need to check on the rice field and the grapefruit orchard." Hoai nodded, her voice soft but firm with determination. "Yes, Mother. Medicine costs so much these days. We must find a way to manage." Mother Ha pursed her lips, her eyes weighed down. "I think after this harvest we should lease out the rice field. The two of us can't handle it alone anymore. As for the grapefruit orchard, the trees are heavy with fruit this year, that's something to be glad about. But the fruits aren't very pretty, probably because of poor fertilizing. I'm afraid the traders will force the price down, and we won't earn much." At that, Hoai fell silent. Her fingers absent-mindedly brushed the stray eggshells left on the tray. An emptiness rose inside her. The image of Hung appeared vividly in her mind, his broad shoulders, his steady eyes whenever he spoke of household matters. Her voice trembled slightly, yet it carried a glimmer of faith. Maybe we should wait until Hung comes back before deciding, Mother. He knows how to price things and has connections with the traders. With him around, things will surely go much more smoothly. At the mention of Hung's name, a fleeting spark of hope lit up in both their eyes, only to dim quickly into worry. Outside, the rain continued to pour, and the wind whistled through the bamboo like an omen, reminding them that greater trials still lay ahead. And in Hoai's heart, a gnawing unease grew stronger, as if foretelling that a storm of fate was drawing near. In a distant land, at the edge of a remote village, the sky suddenly darkened. The wind howled through the trees, and then a heavy rainstorm broke. Sheets of rain pounded on the leaves, the drumming echoing across the mountains and forests. The dirt path, already uneven, quickly turned into a muddy stretch, with rainwater running in thin streams down the slope. At the foot of the village slope, silence reigned. Few dared to travel in such weather. The road grew lonelier still under the blinding curtain of rain. In the distance, a slender figure moved slowly forward. It was a young woman. On her shoulder hung a bamboo basket full of freshly picked forest vegetables. Her brown blouse was drenched, clinging to her thin frame. Her bare feet, caked with mud, pressed on steadily as she tried to hurry home before darkness fell completely. But then, at the bend of the slope, she froze. Her eyes widened in horror, her body trembling uncontrollably. In front of her lay a man, motionless on the cold ground, half his body submerged in a rain puddle. His once white shirt was stained with mud, blood streaming from a wound on his forehead, mixing with rainwater and reddening the earth beneath him. His face was pale, his breath faint and fragile, like a thread about to snap. The basket slipped from her shoulder, scattering vegetables across the road. Her heart raced wildly, panic rising in her chest. She screamed, her voice breaking as it was carried away by the storm. "Oh God! Someone's hurt. Please, come help, quickly." Her desperate cries echoed through the small village. Moments later, figures rushed out from nearby thatched cottages, some clutching umbrellas, others hastily wrapping raincoats around themselves. When they saw the man sprawled in the mud, shock crossed every face. No one recognized him, but the sight of his critical state left no room for hesitation. A young villager quickly pulled a bamboo hammock from his porch, spread it out, and with the help of others, gently lifted the man onto it. A raincoat was thrown over him to shield him from the storm. The winding dirt road to the district hospital was far, but under the pounding rain, every step of the villagers grew more urgent. Their heavy breaths, the roar of the rain, and the hurried shouts melded into a tense, breathless scene. Inside the hospital emergency room, harsh white neon lights revealed the anxious faces surrounding the stretcher. The sharp scent of disinfectant filled the air. Nurses quickly transferred the man to a bed, while doctors began first aid, cleaning the blood from his forehead before rushing him to a CT scan. The results brought a sigh of relief, only soft tissue injuries, luckily no damage to the brain. Still, the doctor's tone was firm. He must be monitored for at least 1 to 2 days, and any unusual symptoms must be addressed immediately. For now, he was on 4 fluids and given milk to sustain him. But the greatest difficulty remained. He carried no identification, no phone. The hospital had no way to contact his family. The village head, who had been present from the start, looked at the unfamiliar young man and felt a surge of pity. He nodded firmly, though his eyes betrayed deep worry. "I'll take responsibility. He's a traveler who met with misfortune in this storm. We can't abandon him. If his condition improves tomorrow, I'll ask permission to bring him to my home so I can care for him properly." The doctor agreed, carefully explaining every detail, medicines, care instructions, and warnings to watch closely for even the smallest changes, whether a sudden fever or a strange headache. If anything seemed wrong, he must be brought back at once. Outside, the rain continued to hammer the rooftops, pouring down in torrents. The fragile thatched houses shook in the wind, as though bearing witness to the harsh trial fate had placed on the young policeman's shoulders. Inside the stark white hospital room, Hung lay unconscious, no loved ones beside him, only the steady drip of the Four echoing in rhythm, a lonely sound in the endless storm. In the countryside, the weather was fickle, sunshine one moment, rain the next. That morning, a steady drizzle soaked the old tiled roof of the small house, drops trickling from the eaves and pooling into tiny streams on the earthen ground. The bamboo grove by the gate swayed with the wind, leaves falling damp and heavy. But soon after, the clouds began to clear, and golden sunlight pierced through the gaps, shining on the mossy roof and glimmering in the puddles across the yard. When the rain finally stopped, Hoai and her mother, bustled about. They packed baskets with freshly picked vegetables from their garden, bundles of bright green water spinach, tender mustard greens still dotted with dew, and glossy sweet potato leaves. Carefully tying each bundle, they arranged them neatly into a bamboo tray and carried it to the market. The road, muddy from the rain, was nonetheless lively. The squeak of bicycles, the barking of dogs, and the laughter of children chasing butterflies filled the air. Hoai's steps blended into the busy flow of villagers. Her long, rain-damp hair clung to her back, fluttering gently in the breeze. At the market, she set down the tray and displayed the vegetables in tidy rows. Her clear, ringing voice rose above the bustle, mingling with the familiar chorus, the clatter of knives on chopping boards, the calls of hot sticky rice here, and fresh fish for sale, and the lively chatter of bargaining customers. Before long, her regulars gathered. Some bought water spinach, others sweet potato leaves, while one elderly woman reminded her to add garlic and ginger for the evening stew. A neighbor, smiling as she chose her greens, praised warmly. "Your vegetables are always so fresh and tender, so sweet to eat. Save me a few bundles for tomorrow, don't sell them all." Hoai bowed politely, her voice gentle. "Yes, Auntie. I'll pick them early tomorrow just for you." By noon, as the sun reached its peak, the market began to quiet down. Nearly all of Hoai's vegetables were sold, only a few bundles left. She and her mother packed up and returned home. After a quick meal of cold rice and braised fish, they headed back to the fields with sickles and hoes in hand. The rice paddies stretched far and wide, golden waves rippling like the sea. Their 2,000 square meter plot lay in the middle, heavy with grain. The stalks bent under the weight of their ripe heads, just 2 weeks away from harvest. The midday sun glowed warm as the wind rustled through the field, filling the air with a soothing hum. Standing amidst the sea of rice, Hoai rested her sickle on her hip, gazing across the expanse with mixed emotions. Joy swelled at the promise of a bountiful harvest, yet worry gnawed at her heart. The back-breaking work of reaping, drying, and carrying grain loomed ahead, and her health grew frilier by the day. Dizziness and sleepless nights left her weary and uncertain. Mother seeing her daughter's silent burden, leaned on her hoe with a sigh. "After this harvest, we should lease out the field. Just the two of us, we can't manage anymore. You're often unwell, and I can't rest easy watching you push yourself like this." Hoai bit her lip, her silence heavy with guilt. She lifted her gaze to the distant horizon, where white clouds drifted lazily, and silently wished for Hung's return, to share the load, to help decide their future. As the evening drew near, the two women returned to their yard. The setting sun poured honeyed light over the eaves, the gourd trellis, and the climbing vines. They spread out herbs to dry, freshly cut forest leaves and roots whose earthy fragrance mingled with kitchen smoke in the breeze. Side by side, their hands moved swiftly as they chatted in hushed tones, discussing the sale of grapefruits, or raising more chickens and ducks for extra income. Life was still hard, every coin hard-earned and carefully saved, but within the simplicity of the village, they found a measure of peace. The crow of distant roosters, the chirping of sparrows on the thatched roof, and the rustling of bamboo leaves blended into the twilight air. A picture of village life unfolded, calm, warm, and steady. Yet beneath that serenity, unspoken worries lingered. Hoai could not know that at that very moment, far away, the man she loved lay unconscious in a hospital bed, alone in his restless sleep. In the countryside, the last days of the harvest season kept Hoai endlessly busy, swept along by farm work like a river that never stopped flowing. At dawn, she went with her mother, to sell vegetables at the market. Her familiar cries echoed across the narrow market street, mingling with the chatter of buyers and sellers. The vegetables were gone in no time, coins carefully tucked into her pocket. Back home, she hurried to the fields, checking every grain of rice, pulling weeds, her hands never resting. By noon, drenched in sweat, mother and daughter sat by the field's edge, chewing quickly on boiled sweet potatoes they had brought along. As the sun set red over the bamboo groves, they returned to the yard, spreading herbs to dry, separating leaves, and tying bundles of roots and stems. Work followed work, and the burden of daily survival left Hoai little time to dwell on her thoughts. Yet in her eyes lingered a faraway sadness, an emptiness no toil could fill. She had no idea that, far away, the husband she loved so dearly lay in a hospital bed, suspended between fragile life and an endless coma. In the district hospital, Hung lay motionless on a steel bed draped in white sheets. The cold glow of neon lights fell upon his pale face, his hair matted with sweat. His lips were cracked and dry, his shallow breath rising and falling faintly in his chest. At times, his brows furrowed slightly, as if battling pain buried deep in his subconscious. Outside the window, rain poured once more, heavy drops drumming against the tin roof like a somber rhythm beating upon an uncertain fate. The young woman, the one who had stumbled upon him at the slope that day, seemed bound to him ever since. Each day, she brought a basket of vegetables, left it in the hallway, and quietly stepped into his room. Her small, thin hands gently wiped the sweat from his forehead, adjusted his blanket, then leaned close to whisper, as though speaking to a long-lost friend. "Don't worry, you're not alone. I've asked the nurses to keep a close watch. You must get better." Doctors and nurses who passed by nodded quietly at the sight of her unwavering care. Whenever the doctor came to check on him, she asked every detail, her eyes heavy with concern. Other beds were never empty, family members sat close, chatting softly, bringing food and water. Only Hung's bed stood lonely, no loved ones nearby. Silently, the girl had taken their place, becoming his sole companion, though they were nothing more than strangers. At night, when the hospital fell silent, the 4-monitor blinked faint green, its steady beep, beep echoing through the room. It was the only sound proving that life still clung to him. In his deep coma, his hands sometimes moved faintly, as if trying to grasp something, only to fall limp again into emptiness. Meanwhile, back home, Hoai sat before a tray of herbs, her long hair falling over her shoulders as her hands busily sorted dried leaves into neat bundles. The fire crackled in the yard, casting a warm glow over her weary face. From time to time, she glanced up at the sky, where dark clouds gathered and the wind whistled through the bamboo, stirring in her an uneasy feeling she could not explain. Her heart quickened, as though sensing some hidden misfortune. But she brushed it aside, telling herself, "I'm just tired, thinking too much." Little did she know, at that very moment, Her husband lay in a distant hospital, his gaunt face and shallow breath sustained only by the slow drip of an four, clinging tenuously to life. On one side stands Hoai, dressed in a simple brown blouse, silently gazing over the vast rice fields. In her arms, she holds a heavy bundle of golden rice, the ripe grains bending under their own weight, heralding the harvest soon to come. Her eyes drift toward the distant horizon where white clouds drift lazily across the sky. Within that gaze lies a simple hope for a plentiful crop, yet also an unshakable worry about the uncertain days ahead. Her pale face, worn from toil, and her calloused hands cannot conceal her fatigue. Still, deep in her eyes flickers the quiet light of resilience, the strength of a mother, of a wife, bearing the weight of her family while waiting in endless uncertainty. On the other side, in a distant hospital, Hung lies motionless on a steel bed covered with crisp white sheets. His face is pallid, lips cracked, breath faint and fragile as if about to vanish. Each time pain surges through his body, his brows knit briefly before relaxing again into unconsciousness. Beside him, under the cold neon glow, the strange young woman keeps her silent vigil. Her slender hands gently wipe the sweat from his forehead, straighten his displaced blanket, her eyes filled with deep worry and compassion. She fears that if she lets go, this unfamiliar man will sink into the endless void. Two worlds seem to run parallel. One, the quiet countryside with its humble daily struggles. The other, a sterile hospital room in an unfamiliar town. Yet they are connected by an invisible thread of love and fate. A poor rural woman shouldering endless burdens while waiting with fragile hope, a steadfast man caught between life and oblivion, alone in his unconscious battle. When he awakens, will Hung remember what happened on that fateful slope at the edge of the village, where he was struck down by a cruel ambush? Or will those memories remain buried in the fog, leaving behind only a painful blank space in his mind? And Hoai, her health growing weaker each day, how will she manage the heavy harvest and the fruitful grapefruit orchard that traders are soon to claim, without the strong hands and steady shoulders of the man she longs for day and night? These questions hang heavy, like dark storm clouds cloaking the sky, foretelling the tempests yet to come. Where will the happiness of this small family lead? Will their path ahead be bathed in golden sunlight, or shadowed once more by relentless storms? Stay tuned for the next episode to continue walking alongside Hoai and Hung through their trials. And please don't forget to leave your blessings and heartfelt comments for this small family, for sometimes, a single word of encouragement is enough to give them strength to withstand the storm and find the light of tomorrow.